Hello, every pony. I am in a good mood today. And you know what that means, right? It's time for more Guardians of Magic. So let's get right into it. Guardians of Magic, Chapter 3, Wielders and Keepers. Twilight Sparkle was silent as the group walked through the halls of Canterlot Castle up from the dungeons. Her mind was abuzz with more questions than she could count, and she wasn't entirely sure who she could direct them to. Everything these ponies had said seemed so outrageous that it couldn't be possible, but the way they had said it all just made her want to believe that it was all true. Besides, those shadows that Sora had called heartless had been real, so it was quite possible that what he said was just as real. And what Ray said, that I'm one of them. What is that about? What does she mean, them? Directing her attention towards the unicorn filly, she saw that Ray was occupied with asking Spike the latest in a string of questions. Can you breathe fire? Well, yes, Spike answered proudly, glad to see that some pony was excited to talk to a dragon. Want to see? Ray nodded her head eagerly, and Spike took a deep breath before exhaling. A tongue of green fire, only as long as the baby dragon's body, leapt from his mouth. Ray's face lit up in excitement. Sora Ni-chan, she said. Look, he can breathe green fire. Green! He laughed. Green, huh? I wonder how Mushu will react to a dragon that breathes green fire. Rainbow Dash leaned close to Twilight. What does that mean, anyway? She asked. What does what mean, Rainbow? That Ni-chan thing she says. Twilight shook her head. I have no idea, Rainbow Dash, she answered truthfully. There are a lot of things they've said that I don't quite understand. Rainbow Dash groaned. You're telling me. Still, that Keyblade thing was pretty cool. Oni-chan means big brother, Ray said suddenly, turning around and walking backwards. So that's what I call Sora Ni-chan. Big brother Sora. Sora turned his head around from where he walked close to the front with Kairi and Princess Celestia. On his face is a very weary smile. And I'm the only one she uses honorifics for. Doesn't call Kairi Kairi-chan, or Riku Riku-kun, or Riku-san, or Ni-san or Ni-san, like me. He sighed. Sometimes I regret showing her that anime channel. His mare friend giggled slightly to herself. So, Riku, you wouldn't happen to have a mare friend, would you? Rarity asked from behind Twilight, the marshmallow white unicorn walking next to the turquoise one. No, he replied flatly, and I'm not looking. Twilight tuned out Rarity in the back and turned her attention back at the filly. Ray was still walking backwards with a warm smile on her face, and she was staring up at Twilight. What is it? She asked. Do I have something on my face? Ray shook her head. No, I just still can't believe that I'm here, she answered cheerily. This place is like a dream. And why is that, little missy? Applejack asked, amused. You don't have ponies where you and Sora are from? Ray shook her head. No, we do. It's just that there aren't a lot of them. They don't talk. None are unicorns or Pegasi, and none of them have candy-colored coats like you guys do. Sounds pretty lame to me, Rainbow Dash muttered. But if there are so few ponies, Fluttershy asked in genuine concern, what about all of the animals? Twilight could see Ray looking at the pink-maned Pegasus in confusion. What about them? How do they survive? Who looks after them? It must be such hard work for so few ponies to take care of them all. Ray appeared to have been listening in from behind them, answering with, They look after themselves? As if it were obvious. Neither Twilight nor her friends could withhold gasps. All 6 of them stopped in their tracks and stared at the 4 other ponies, all gathering around each other and gazing at Twilight's group with perplexed expressions. What? Riku said. They take care of themselves? Spike asked. But that's not right. Their world must be like the Everfree Forest, Rainbow Dash said, treading slightly on her hooves. and we all know how creepy that place is. It just doesn't work the same as Equestria. The four human-turned ponies looked at one another. Everfree Forest? Sora asked. Twilight began to explain, although she was now suddenly wary of them again. Animals looking after themselves, and without any pony lifting a hoof to help? She wasn't the best with animals, not like Fluttershy or even Applejack. But even Twilight knew how important it was to look after Equestria's wildlife. The Everfree Forest is a place where... Here we are, Princess Celestia cut her off, opening a door with her magic. Come on in, every pony. We can talk here in more comfort than those dank dungeons. Princess, Applejack pointed out. This here's the infirmary. You're right, Applejack. It is, Celestia said. I recall that you and Captain Cloudhammer came across a pony being attacked by the Heartless, correct? I think that you would like to know exactly why those creatures attacked her when she wakes up. Or what those creatures that attacked her were when she wakes up. I need a drink real quick. I should start keeping a bottle next to me when I do these readings. Like I am now. Okay. You do have a point, Princess Rarity agreed. And I know that if that had been me, I would have liked to know myself. Yeah, same here. Oh, goddamn! I lost my place. Yeah, same here, added Rainbow Dash. Princess Celestia nodded, and all of them filed into the room. A light gray unicorn stallion in a white doctor's coat with a stethoscope around his neck and salt and pepper mane was examining Trixie as she lay on one of the beds. He turned around at the sound of their entrance and smiled slightly. Ah, good afternoon, Princess Celestia, he said. What brings you here? Good afternoon, Dr. Checkup, Princess agreed. How fares our little pony? Perfect name for a doctor right there, Dr. Checkup. She's doing quite well, considering, he answered, his smile not leaving his face. Only a few scrapes and bumps, and it looks like she pulled a muscle on the front of her left cannon, but beyond that it's a textbook case of magical exhaustion. However, he sighed, and this time the smile did slip from his face. She also appears to be suffering from dehydration and the first effects of prolonged malnutrition. Look at how tight her skin is to her rib cage. She's lost quite a bit of fat and muscle tissue. So what are you saying, Doctor? Twilight asked. Is Trixie going to be all right? She turned her violet eyes onto Trixie and couldn't help but feel pity for her. What could have happened to the proud mare after she'd left Ponyville that could end up leaving her on the ropes like this? Even Rainbow Dash and Rarity were looking at one another in concern. She should be fine, Miss Sparkle, Dr. Checkup told her, but I recommend that she gets plenty of rest, water, and nutritious meals for the next week, and be confined to this bed for the rest of the day when she wakes up. Don't let her overeat, though. Suddenly gorging herself after living on what looks to be minimal food could upset her system as much as not eating would. Princess Celestia added, Thank you, Dr. Checkup. We'll make sure that your recommendation is followed. Would you be a dear and go down to the kitchens? I'm sure that our friend there would love some black bean and carrot soup and a fresh loaf of bread when she wakes. And get some food yourself. I know that you've been worrying yourself since Luna brought young Starshine and Moondancer in last night. Checkup smiled and nodded his head. As you wish, Your Highness. I'll be sure to send some up. As he trotted away, Ray slowly walked up to the bed in which Trixie was lying asleep. Twilight had to admit, Trixie didn't look anywhere near as haughty while she was sleeping. Oni-chan, the little filly said quietly, her eyes still on Trixie's face. She's another one of them. What? 2 of them? Riku asked, stunned. Rainbow Dash hovered above him and turned him around. Circles of aquamarine stared into frustrated, brilliant rows. 2 of what? Rainbow Dash countered. What is going on here? I'd like to know that, too, Twilight said, glancing at each of the Keyblade ponies. What did Ray mean when she said that I was one of them? I'm one of what? What's this about? She looked to Princess Celestia, but her mentor didn't say a word and only watched. Sora sighed. I think it's time we told you our story. Twilight and the others listened patiently. Ah, lost my place again. Twilight and the others listened patiently as mostly Sora, Riku, and Kairi told them about how they'd lived on tropical islands in peace for years. With Riku feeling trapped and confined, struck by wanderlust to go out and explore the other worlds, and how in his need he opened the door to the heart of their world and accidentally let the Heartless in to destroy it. They listened to Sora's tale of how he'd adventured across numerous worlds with two people named Donald and Goofy, trying to find both Riku and Kairi while they searched for their king, and of how Riku fell in with a witch named Maleficent and betrayed Sora because of his jealousy and their rivalry over Kairi's affections. Kairi's tale of how her heart had come to rest within Sora's to keep it safe had them hanging on every word, and she explained that she was one of the 7 princesses of heart, maidens with pure hearts of light, who when brought together were the key to opening the doors to darkness, beyond which lay Kingdom Hearts and the realm of darkness. Maleficent had used Riku to assist her in gathering the princesses, but they needed Kairi's heart in order to make their keyhole to the darkness complete. It couldn't be completed or the keyhole sealed while her heart was still within Sora's. That was a long paragraph. And that pretty much sums up Kingdom Hearts 1 also. 1 second, need a drink. Wait just a minute, Rarity exclaimed. You stabbed yourself? Sora reared up onto his hind legs and pointed at a thin line in his chest. Right there, he said solemnly. When I stabbed myself with the keyblade of captive hearts to unlock Kairi's heart, it came out and was returned to her. But it also caused my heart to fall into darkness. Right in front of my face, Kairi sighed. Ansem then turned up and would have ended us, but Riku was able to regain control long enough for us to run. Ansem sent a bunch of Heartless after us, but Sora's Heartless turned out to be just a little shadow that followed Donald, Goofy, and me all the way through Hollow Bastion. I knew it was him when it looked at me and refused to attack us. So much Kingdom Hearts info right here. And I still need to pay Donald back for whacking me on the head with his staff, grumbled Sora. Kairi had seen through to Sora, and when the other Heartless surrounded and jumped to them, she'd shielded him with her body, and the light in her heart took out the Heartless and brought Sora's heart back into the light. They'd all left Hollow Bastion and returned to Traverse Town for a short while, before Sora, Donald, and Goofy returned to Hollow Bastion to seal the keyhole, and continue on to save Riku from Ansem. They ventured all the way to the end of the world, where they saw all that remained of the hundreds of worlds shattered and taken by the Heartless, before they found and confronted Ansem. In an epic battle, Sora and his friends emerged victorious in front of the door to darkness, but Ansem opened the door. To his dismay, Sora revealed that Kingdom Hearts wasn't everlasting, eternal darkness, but light, and the light of all worlds destroyed Ansem. Beyond the door to Kingdom Hearts lay the realm of darkness, where thousands upon thousands of Heartless gathered, prepared to leave the realm of darkness and invade the realm of light. They were able to shut the door, but it required Riku and King Mickey to stay behind in the realm of darkness and able to do it. Then, as all of the worlds whose hearts had been taken were restored, Sora remained behind to search for Riku while Kairi returned to the islands to wait for them. Spike was blowing his nose on a tissue Rarity levitated to him, and Twilight rubbed her eyes with a hoof, feeling them getting a bit misty too. Trixie's soup had arrived, even though the unicorn showed no signs of waking yet, and Twilight admitted privately that she was getting a little hungry too. But the story wasn't over, though, and the 5 little ponies, Princess Celestia, and Spike continued to listen as Sora and Riku explained about how they both came upon Castle Oblivion and their exploits within. Riku trying to master the darkness still within him in the form of Ansem, and Sora dealing with his ever-changing memories at the manipulation of a girl named Namine. Namine? Spike asked. Wait, didn't you mention her before, Kairi? She nodded her head. I did. Namine is my nobody. Roxas is Sora's nobody, and all of the people in black cloaks that Sora, Donald, Goofy, and Riku and King Mickey were meeting were nobodies. Then, what is a nobody? Celestia asked. If a heartless is the heart consumed by darkness, the nobody is the body and soul left behind by a strong heart, Riku answered. Because all nobodies are born from strong hearts, even the most basic nobodies are stronger than about half of the heartless varieties we've come across. And the more powerful the nobody, the more they look like what they were in life. There were once a group of 13 powerful nobodies, led by one called Xemnas, Sora explained. They called themselves Organization 13, and their goal was to collect hearts within the Keyblade in order to make their own Kingdom Hearts, and use its power to make themselves whole again. Well, that sounds reasonable, Fluttershy said. I mean, if I didn't have a heart, I'd want mine back too. You'd think it sounds reasonable, Sora sighed. But the thing is that without a heart, nobodies aren't even able to feel emotion. The end completely justifies the mean when they have no ethics holding them back. Their 13th member was Roxas, my nobody, and because he was a part of me, he could use the Keyblade, so they unleashed the Heartless into the worlds for Roxas to defeat and collect hearts, not caring about anyone they hurt in the process. Once Riku, Diz, and Naminé fixed up my memories and forced Roxas to merge back with me, the organization continued by using me to gather hearts for them, and they also kidnapped Kairi to ensure my obedience. More drink? Despicable, growled Rarity. Preaching to the choir there, Rarity, Kairi agreed. The only nice ones from what I've heard from Naminé and Roxas were Axel and Demyx. While the others could be nice when they tried, Saïx, she spat his name like it was poison, certainly wasn't that nice to me. How can you have heard from these two? Twilight asked before Rainbow Dash could ask the same question. I thought that at the end of this story, you would have beaten Xemnas and the rest of the organization, rescued Kairi, been reunited with all of your friends, and returned home. Since you're here, you're obviously whole, so Roxas and Naminé shouldn't exist at all, right? Her friends all looked at Twilight as she flattened her ears sheepishly. Well, that is the logical conclusion. And it's almost right, Ray exclaimed. Sora Nichan did beat the organization and come home with Kairi and Riku and the others, but because Roxas, Nichan, and Naminé merged with Sora, Nichan, and Kairi, they aren't gone and live instead inside of them. Huh? The three older ponies laughed. We've got them living inside of us, Sora explained, pointing a hoof at his chest. We can talk to them telepathically, and when Kairi and I are in close proximity, they can talk to each other. We essentially have real alter egos, and with a little effort, Kairi and I can switch with Roxas and Naminé, and they'll appear on the outside and have control of our bodies. We've been able to figure out so far that Roxas and Naminé have the ability to remain the dominant personality and control for as long as a week before they tire out and need to go back inside. But we've also learned that at any time, Kairi or I can hijack their control and put them back. Interesting, Twilight said, rubbing her face with a hoof. Do you think that we could meet them? Sora and Kairi glanced at one another, and then they bent their heads down and closed their eyes. A slight wind blew around them in the room, rustling their manes and coats of fur. From their hooves up, their colors began changing. Sora's mahogany coat darkened into a dark gray color, and his tail and mane shifted from their chocolate brown into a golden blonde. Kairi's light pink coloring softened until she was just as white as Rarity, her own mane and tail becoming a mix of white blonde and platinum blonde. On Naminé's snow-white cannons were pink hoof bands, but the most startling change was that the wings Sora and Kairi each had vanished as their colors changed. A horn grew out of Roxas's head, while Naminé stood a resplendent earth pony, still wearing the raspberry beret Kairi had been wearing. Roxas's key mark was a pair of crossed keyblades, one white and beautiful, and the other the black one Sora had used earlier, while Naminé's was of an artist's palette. Hey there, Roxas said, his cerulean eyes the exact same shade as Sora's. It's nice to meet you, Naminé added, bowing her head slightly. Twilight Sparkle just stared at them in awe, while Riku started to snicker. I think that's supposed to be snicker. It's spelled snigger, but yeah, whatever. And both Roxas and Naminé turned to look at them. What is it, Riku? He's a unicorn and you're an earth pony, he answered. Naminé did not seem to be very amused. Really? I'm an earth pony? I'm the most magical one in this group, and I become an earth pony, while the two who can barely use magic become unicorns. How does that make any sense? Naminé, it makes perfect sense, Roxas answered her. She trained her indigo eyes onto him in complete skepticism. Sora and Kairi are the most athletic of us, so they get wings and become Pegasi, able to run and fly and do all sorts of cool tricks. Naturally, Rainbow Dash agreed, puffing her chest out proudly on behalf of all Pegasi. Tell me how they're the most athletic when Riku's one of the Machen Manticore's Blitzball team. When Riku's the one on the Machen Manticore's Blitzball team, and Sora and Kairi are only second string for the Bash Justiciars, I guess that's what the word is, senior boys and girls teams. Ever see me doing those crazy flips and acrobatics they're always using? Riku asked. Naminé grumbled. Point taken. And remember what horns are? Roxas asked her. What do animals use horns for? Establishing male dominance and proclaiming their strength and ability for all eligible females, and for rival males to take note of when searching for mates, Naminé supplied dryly. Roxas rolled his eyes. They're weapons, Naminé, used for competing with each other and defending their mates in herds. Riku and I are the best swordsmen of the group. No, Sora, I'm still better than you. So it's only natural that we get them. I love the way that Sora and Roxas just, like, communicate with each other and, like, you can't, like, see the other talking. Just, like, a little thing I find kind of amusing. Okay. Spike looked up at Fluttershy. Is that really what they're for? I believe so, she said. But I know that I've never seen any of my dear friends fighting one another over a doe before. When one of them takes interest in a doe, they just go for a stroll in the meadow together, not compete with another male in a way that they could get hurt. And you, Roxas said, well, Naminé sighed. I'm not the most athletic or very good with a sword. My art can be just as magic as my magical arts are, but I'm not physically strong. Well, now that doesn't make very much sense at all, dear, Rarity said. Most earth ponies are stronger physically than unicorns or Pegasi. And while they can't actively use magic like us unicorns can, Twilight added, they do have a stronger connection to the earth when it comes to growing things or taking care of animals than other ponies. But it does make some sense, too. A lot of earth ponies have a variety of talents besides looking after the land or animals. Pinkie Pie's a real party pony, and both she and the cakes are pastry chefs. I don't think any of them are anywhere near as strong as Applejack. Aw, shucks, Twi. You're making me blush. The coloring of the Roxas and Naminé... You might want to look at that, Shire Folk. Started to revert as Sora and Kairi reasserted control. Well, that was short-lived, Roxas said dryly. It was nice seeing you all personally, Naminé added. I do see why Kairi keeps that beret, though, Rarity called. It looks lovely on you, Naminé. Thank you, Naminé answered just before her head became light pink once again. Sora shook his head, now fully in control once again. He looked at Riku. I'm surprised you didn't try to headbutt Roxas. Meh, he had a horn too. Would have taken us hours for me to get the better of him. He says that he agrees, except you'd be the loser. When we have a free day, he can come at me and prove it himself. Rarity sidled up to Twilight and began whispering in her ear. Now that's something I wouldn't mind watching, she said. Twilight sighed. So, you guys got back home, she said. What happened then? Kairi answered. King Mickey, Donald, Goofy, Pluto, and Jiminy all went back to Castle Disney, and we returned home to our daily lives. It's supposed to be Disney Castle, but for some reason I read the castle part first. Okay. Ray was really excited to see Sora back, and all of us were grounded for 2 weeks. School started up again, and we got a letter from King Mickey thanking us for all our hard work and sacrifice. And time passed peacefully. However, we knew that we certainly hadn't seen the end of it. And I had just gotten my own Keyblade and wasn't that good with it, so Sora and Riku trained me both in swordplay and magic. We could notice her getting better and stronger every week, Sora said proudly. In 5 months, Kyra was almost on par when it came to fighting with her Keyblade to me and Riku. And she'd already surpassed me in her ability to use magic. We started dating 6 months after we got back to the islands. About frickin' time, too, Riku muttered. Drink. Sorry I have to drink so much. My fan's right next to me. It's drying out my throat. Then. And while her dad wasn't the most supportive of us training her to fight, after he found out, he did understand the need for and both of our feelings in the matter. Kairi didn't want to be the damsel in distress anymore and help me and Riku out without being a burden. I don't know why I screwed that up so badly. And more than anything, I wanted to make sure she was safe. So keeping her close but able to stand on her own 2 feet were the best things to do, Sir continued, smiling at his mare friend. That was almost 7 months ago, Kairi said. We kept on training and doing schoolwork, hanging out and having fun, but then, just over a month ago, something happened that told us our peacetime was over. She looked at Ray. The filly gulped and looked at Twilight Sparkle. She glanced once to Princess Celestia and then to her older brother. He nodded, and Ray turned back to Twilight. Apprehension filled every limb in Twilight's body. Now she would learn just what it was that Ray had mentioned. Ray opened her mouth to speak, but before she could get more than 2 words out, a groan from the bed interrupted her. Trixie opened her eyes slowly, seeing everything in a fuzzy haze while consciousness returned to her. Dull pain racked her body, and she felt incredibly weary. Her stomach ached from its now chronic emptiness, and Trixie regretted having eaten that last cinnamon-coated pine cone as a late-night snack instead of saving it for a time when she needed it, like right now. Trixie and her pine cones. I was wondering when that line was. I knew it was in this fic somewhere, but I just couldn't remember which chapter. She closed her eyes again and remembered what had happened before she blacked out. Those shadows, what were they? And where was she, for that matter? She couldn't have gotten rid of all of them, and even if she had, shouldn't she be lying on the road? This certainly felt like a bed beneath her back. Trixie opened her eyes again. There was a white ceiling above her. "Where am I?" she asked aloud. "Ah, so you're awake now." That voice! There was only one pony in all of Equestria who had such a maternal and majestic voice like that. Trixie turned her head in a little bit of shock to see Princess Celestia herself standing beside her bed. "Princess!" she stammered. To what does the great and to what does the humble Trixie owe this pleasure? Sweat began beating on Trixie's face as the questions continued to assault her mind. Obviously, she was now in Canterlot Castle with the princess here. But how did she get here? And why had Princess Celestia be here, waiting for her to wake up? The Sun Princess's gentle voice touched her ears again. "You have no need to be afraid, Trixie," she said. She lowered a wing softly to brush against Trixie's face. "The castle is safe from the shadows that attacked you earlier. Please, be calm. You're among friends here." Trixie felt herself calming down at the soft words Princess Celestia spoke. Her touch felt like a warm sunbeam, and Trixie let a small smile come to her face as some of her worries were swept away for the moment. "Thank you, but Princess Celestia," she had to ask, "how did Trixie get here?" "You could thank us for that." Trixie's eyes widened at the voice. She had heard it from before, but it had certainly belonged to one of the ponies that she had humiliated when she'd performed in Ponyville. Princess Celestia still smiled warmly and stepped aside, revealing several other ponies in the room, and Trixie could immediately recognize most of them as Ponyvillians. It was the Blue Pegasus who had spoken, and even though she sounded a little annoyed, she did look somewhat concerned. "Are you all right, Trixie?" the Lavender Unicorn asked her. Trixie's eyes darted between the unicorn and Princess Celestia. Trixie had heard more about this particular mare and her friends since she'd left Ponyville. She was undoubtedly Twilight Sparkle, the bearer of the element of magic of the 6 elements of harmony. a pony that had saved Equestria from eternal night and chaos along with her friends, and was the personal protege of the white alicorn standing beside Trixie's bed. And Trixie had... A small unicorn filly looked up at the brown Pegasus stallion. Sora Ni-chan, why is her face turning white? Trixie, you shouldn't have to be scared, Princess Celestia said in understanding, drawing the Azure Unicorn's attention back to her and away from the Ponyville ponies. I had heard about you from my faithful student, and I want you to know that neither I nor Twilight harbor any ill feelings towards you. Trixie blinked, and some of the color returned to her face. You don't hate Trixie for what she did? Twilight shook her head and smiled softly. No, Trixie. Although your boasting about things you never did was a bit much, no pony could have expected Snips and Snails to actually go and bring an Ursa Minor to town. Rarity stomped a hoof on the floor. You turned my mane green! Ah, Rarity. Trixie bit her lip and lowered her head. Yes, well, Trixie does feel a little foolish for her conduct in Ponyville. Applejack huffed. A little? Are you hearing this, Twi? Applejack, Twilight hissed. In fact, it was not only Ponyville that gazed upon the great and powerful Trixie as some of you did, Trixie admitted in a quiet voice. Philadelphia and Baltimore were less kind to Trixie than the rustic Ponyville was. Spike rolled his eyes. Gee, why am I not surprised? Trixie shot the baby dragon a look. If you must know, the great and powerful Trixie's feats of unparalleled magic show ended in Ponyville. The Ursa Minor showed Trixie that she was a fool to attempt to trumpet feats she had never accomplished. That sooner or later she would get herself into situations too big for her if she continued, or turn ponies she couldn't best against her and possibly get herself hurt. Princess Celestia nodded kindly. It sounds like you learned an important lesson about friendship. Friendship? Trixie laughed. Princess, you give the great and powerful Trixie too much credit. Trixie only remembered to be honest and a bit more modest to other ponies. More drink? But honesty is an important part of friendship, Fluttershy said softly, coming closer towards Trixie and earning the unicorn's attention for the first time. Why, if no pony was honest with any pony else, then the foundation of trust many friendships are built on couldn't exist. You must be Fluttershy, bearer of the element of kindness. Trixie noted that the yellow Pegasus took a half step back at her blunt tone. Why, yes I am. It's nice to actually meet you, Trixie. But I don't really think we should keep you talking very long. You just woke up after all, and I'm sure you're very hungry. Trixie's traitorous stomach growled loudly in agreement. She defiantly raised her head, daring any of them to laugh. Twilight's horn glowed with magenta light, and a bowl of soup flew towards Trixie's bedside. Here, said Princess Celestia. I had the doctor looking after you send this up from the kitchens. Eat up, my little pony. And don't hesitate to ask for more than what you've finished. Or for more when you've finished. Bleh. A loaf of fresh bread was also levitated towards her, and Trixie felt a smile come to her face when she saw that none of them were now giving her looks of distrust. Thank you, she said, her horn now glowing with violet light as she grasped hold of the bowl of soup and spoon. Trixie is grateful for your kindness and understanding, Twilight Sparkle. But I must know. How did I get here? Last thing Trixie saw are those shadow things surrounding her. Princess Celestia summoned us to Canterlot and had one of the Pegasus Guard captains assigned to get us. Twilight Sparkle answered, We saw a big flash of light below us and saw you surrounded by Heartless. So that's when Captain Cloudhammer and his team flew us down to your rescue. Trixie paused in eating her soup to raise her eyebrow at Twilight. Heartless? She asked snidely. Is that what you're calling these things? It's what they are, spoke up one of the other ponies in the room, a brown Pegasus with a wildly spiked chocolate mane. And unfortunately, you and Twilight are going to be seeing a lot more of them. And you are? Trixie said. I'm Sora, he replied, and this is Kairi, Riku, and Rei. We came to Equestria by accident, but we're here to deal with the Heartless, and we'd like you and Twilight to accompany us when we leave. Trixie narrowed her eyes. And why should the great and powerful Trixie go with you? For some reason, all the ponies looked at the little filly. She sighed, took a deep breath, and came closer to Trixie. Rei glanced at Sora, then Twilight, and finally settled her gaze on Trixie. About a month ago, I had a dream, she said. I was standing on a platform with a floor of stained glass in the middle of a dark place. Painted on it were me and my brother, and at first I didn't know why I was having this dream. But then a voice spoke to me. It told me that dark days were ahead, and that my brother and I would need my help, and that my brother would need my help to overcome them. The voice showed me flashes of people that would be the key. I can't really remember what they look like now, but I know that I know who they are, and the voice told me to gather them. The Keepers of the Art. More Annals of Darkness plot. The Keepers of the Art? Rainbow Dash asked. And what in the hay are they supposed to be? Applejack wondered, glancing around. Princess Celestia, however, gasped and leaned towards Rei. Are you sure? Are you sure that you were told to gather the Keepers? Rei nodded, apparently surprised at the sudden earnest of the Alicorn. Princess Celestia, what is it? What are the Keepers of the Art? Twilight Sparkle asked. And what do Twilight Sparkle and Trixie have to do with them? Trixie asked. She took another sip of her soup, but she had to admit that the filly's tale was intriguing. Preposterous for all of this fuss because of a dream and a voice, but Celestia's reaction to it was no doubt intriguing. The Sun Princess turned a steady eye on her pupil. The Keepers of the Art are said in legend to be 6 beings, united together in mastery of the arcane art that we call magic. Together, they can perform feats of magic impossible for a single unicorn to do alone, or even 100 combined. Luna and I together would even be dwarfed by their combined power. Really? Trixie asked, the spoon dropping onto the white sheet and slowly beginning to stain it red. Princess Celestia nodded. Yes, she said, and it is also said that together they can divine the location of any magical artifact, and summon it, or at least clear a path towards it in an instant. They also uphold the universe's flow of magic just by existing. Kairi nodded her head. Yeah, Master Yen said about the same thing to us. He also told us that new guardians are born whenever the others eventually die. But that if all 6 are to be killed at once, then the realms of both light and darkness would be thrown into eternal chaos, as magic went haywire without anyone to uphold it. Soon after Rei had the dream, Heartless appeared on the islands and tried to take her, Sora said. But we were able to fight them off, and Rei got a Keyblade during the fighting. I honestly didn't want to believe that she was the only one who knew who the Guardians were. That my little sister was to be my key to connecting everything. But she is. Thanks to her, we've already found one of them. And now you and Trixie bring our count up to 3, Twilight. You said guardians just now, Trixie said. I thought they were called keepers. Sora smiled sheepishly. Well, technically, yes. But Keepers of the Art just doesn't sound as cool or easy to understand as Guardians of Magic does. Because that's essentially what they are. Hence the name of the fic. So Sora's taking to calling them the Guardians of Magic, Riku clarified. You hear that, Twilight? The baby dragon said. You're a guardian of magic. How cool is that? But what makes you so sure that Trixie is one of them? Trixie demanded before any pony else could speak. Tell me you have more to go on than a filly's dreams. It is true that Trixie's talent is magic, but she has not the power of Twilight Sparkle or the princesses. Trixie cannot defeat an Ursa Major or even an Ursa Minor, and has never channeled the magic of the universe before. Though Trixie has good mastery and understanding of magic, all she has for tricks are minor conjuration and illusions. Though she has, a light silenced Trixie as her voice continued to drop. In front of the mare hovering seemed something that she had never truly seen before, but thought she glimpsed before fading into unconsciousness earlier. There was only one other thing that Master Yen Sid said, or that Master Yen Sid gave us to go off of when finding the Guardians besides Ray's half-remembered dream vision, Sora said. Each of the Guardians has the potential to summon a Keyblade. Cliffhanger! Yeah. So, that's the end of this part. See you guys next time for chapter, what was it? Yes, the next chapter is... God, how can I forget the next chapter? It's 4, Murphy's Law. See you next time. Bye.